was the first part concerning the assumption of the office of the President Act, I stand to totally oppose this bill. I stand to oppose the National Government Administration Laws Amendment Bill on a matter of principles, on matters of the Constitution, and matters of the spirit of the Constitution of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the essence of the 2010 Constitution was to make the executive lean, accountable, and less intimidating. Many of us who have been around for some time remember the barbaric nature of the former holders of the so-called office of Head of Public Service. Many remember Honorable Nyachai, Ezekiel Yugi, and the rest. Honorable Speaker, in those who drafted the 2010 Constitution sought to cure the excesses imposed by the various offices. Honorable Speaker, let's start looking at the bill one by one. Honorable Speaker, if you go to the one amendments to the National Security Council, Honorable Speaker, Article 240 is explicitly clear what constitutes the composition of the National Security Council. And Honorable Speaker, you are the Speaker here and you represent the Speaker. And this is a matter that the debate will continue until we are able to resolve this matter conclusively. A committee's report with the amendments, there is no guarantee that those amendments will be carried at the committee of the whole House. So essentially, the substantive document we are dealing with, which could pass with or without amendment, is the published bill. So to come and now hoodwink and tell Kenyans that we have removed the offensive and constitutional provision, so let's debate and pass the bill, is what we used to call, I wouldn't want to say it here, it might more as a parliamentary. Honorable Speaker, when you go to the next provision that deals with the office of the National Security Advisor, ordinarily over the world in even enhanced democracies, modern democracies, the office of the National Security Advisor, an advisor, works at the helm, at the fiat of the President, at the pleasure of the President. So consequently, Honorable Speaker, cannot be legislated. Let those one work as they are. Honorable Speaker, of course the most damaging amendment to this particular bill is now the creation of the office of Head of Public Service. Honorable Speaker, and when you look at the provisions that the jobs, the duties have been assigned as the bill here, one of them is to be the administrative head of the executive office of the President, which again is not an office defined in the Constitution. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the decisions of the President, as contemplated in Article 135, are supposed to be in writing and shall bear the seal and signature of the President. That is so instructive that, Honorable Speaker, the nation of Kenya, the people of Kenya, should not lose sight of. At no any time was there any contemplation that somebody else will write on behalf of the President and sign any document for the functions bestowed on the President on behalf of the President. Article 135 has been very clear on the signature and the communication coming from the President. It has been anomaly all along that we find quite a number of pronouncements that touch on the core mandate of the office of the President, the Presidency, the President, signed by any other person other than the President. Honorable Speaker, if indeed the head of the public service serves at the pleasure of the President, as indicated in this bill, that position therefore, Honorable Speaker, cannot be a state office as defined in Article 260. That becomes an errand boy of the President to serve at the pleasure of the President. Any incoming administration ought to have and will always have a different style of executing their mandate of running their government, saddling them with an office created by an act of parliament that's unconstitutional, Honorable Speaker, is essentially tying the hands of the new administration that could have otherwise wanted to do things in a completely different manner. Honorable Speaker, in the wildest dream, why would any drafter, how would a sponsor of a bill of such a magnitude indicate, Honorable Speaker, that the head of the public service, shall be the custodian of the public seal and any other instruments of state that are not in the custody of any other person? That's where the mischief lies. What mischief do you want to say to do? The office of the president will auction this country because they have the seal, they have the signature. They'll simply auction this country, enter into any businesses without any reference to any other party. Honorable Speaker, the bill before us creates the non-existent office called the Chief Administrative Secretary. And when you go through the duties assigned to the Chief Administrative Secretary, they do not exist in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, 2010. It's not those, the executive office consists of the president, the deputy president, and the cabinet secretary. And then the accounting officer becomes the permanent or principal secretary. The question all of us are begging to ask, where does the chief administrative secretary fall in the architecture of the executive? That's the question we are asking. He is neither listed under Article 260 of the Constitution as a state officer. What is it? What is it? Any office created in public service is for the specific function. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, you see when we pass an act of parliament, we state that they will have the following officers. And those officers become officers in the public service. And the Constitution of Kenya is expressly clear what constitutes the public service. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the functions assigned to them, to this office, let us with the parliament. Let us in parliament as who? The duty to report to parliament is vested in the constitutional offices. That's the president, that's the cabinet secretary, that's the permanent secretary, and the holders of the constitutional office. So how does liaison come in whether and there's none of a constitutional office? Honorable Speaker, they say to liaise with the county governments on matters of concurrent mandate. There are created organs in the Constitution. There are created organs in the County Government Act. So what are we doing here, Honorable Speaker? What are we doing here? Honorable Speaker, we have now we find that one of the functions represent the Cabinet Secretary at any meeting as may be directed by the Cabinet Secretary. Essentially, as Dr. Mikal has indicated previously, we are creating an office of assistant minister. Yet in the Constitution, there has not been assigned any person, anybody, any office in the public service or in state office to act as an assistant to the cabinet secretary. It is not provided for. So why we try to amend the Constitution by legislation, which is obviously a wrong process? Honorable Speaker, indeed, when you look at under Article 260, it calls that the Constitution should be interpreted to advance law. Constitution should be interpreted to advance good governance. Honorable Speaker, this particular bill falls flat of those provisions of the Constitution. I would urge the Speaker to apply himself, drop the promoter of the bill, drop it, go draft it to meet the constitutional requirement and bring it for debate. Leave it the way it is, and then the way we operate in a gallantry manner. If all the amendments are defeated, then it goes the way it is. This will be essential, as we have already agreed, and constitutional bill, the cure cannot be found.
What's the point of order?